Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
What is happening, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day, whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz. Look, we're diving deep and keeping it real, so please do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. Look, my friends, on tonight's conversation, we're cutting through the noise and getting straight to it. Washington is broken. Trust in government is low. Low is even an understatement. I think it's absolutely no trust in the government, but that's just my opinion. And voters, especially right here in Virginia, here in the Commonwealth, are asking a simple question: who's actually fighting for us? Our guest tonight, Tim Cywinski, says he's not your typical Democrat. He calls himself a reformist, but in political climate where labels don't mean much anymore, we're going to find out what that really means. Is he offering real change or just a different message wrapped in the same system? Look, we're going to be getting into it today, and I'm looking forward to speaking with Tim. I followed his platform for quite a while, and look, this man means business, man. I had the opportunity to speak with him before the show, and looking forward to this conversation. I think you all are going to be in for a treat tonight. As always, my friends, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune into yet another great convo here on the Arrington Gavin Show. As you know, we drop new episodes weeknights, Monday through Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, just to name a few. We're available on all major podcast platforms. In addition to that, you can also listen to us on the radio airways if you happen to be in one of these few cities that I'm about to mention, like Las Vegas, Sin City. On your way to the casinos, hoping to get lucky, be sure to tune your radio dial to KSHP 1400 AM or 107.1 FM, where you can listen into the Arrington Gavin Show Friday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Again, that's only on KSHP 1400 AM or 107.1 FM. Las Vegas. Again, if you happen to get lucky and win there, just remember, spot your boy a couple bucks. I'm just saying, these gas prices as high as hell, man. Just give me a little bit. You know what's sad? When I was at the gas station, I literally was contemplating. I'm like, let me look at the distance if I walk to work. Let me look at the distance. I was looking at the other, I never even realized when you go on like your Google Maps or just maps on your iPhone and you will see, okay, I'm paying attention just at the car icon, right? But then I click it, I'm like, oh, I got walking. Oh, I got bike. Let me see my options. I thought about it. But in addition to high gas prices, man, we got grocery prices that are extremely high. Affordability is like it's no such thing as housing affordability. I mean, it's just insane out here, y'all. Where am I at now? Oh, we said Las Vegas. Okay, so Metro Atlanta area. Be sure to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show on WDJY 99.1 FM Straight Talk, where you can listen into the show. We air weeknights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WDJY 99.1 FM. And that is in the Metro Atlanta area. So shout out to them as well. And then lastly, our fam out in the New Orleans area, WBOK 1230 AM, What New Orleans is Talking About, where you can listen into the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, that's only on WBOK 1230 AM, What New Orleans is Talking About. And then lastly, I got to shout out my friends over at GOATverse TV, where you can tune into the Arrington Gavin past episodes of the Arrington Gavin Show on demand. All you have to do is download the app. It's free. It's available on the App Store, Google Play Store, Roku, as well as Amazon Fire TV. As you know, hey, I'm an advocate for supporting independent media that you are in need for. Okay, I get tired of what we see right now on the legacy circuit, because they give you the great stories or the needed stories, for like 3 seconds, and then it's time to move on to other stuff. So look, you see a growth right now when it comes to independent media, and GOATverse TV is one of them as well as the stations that I just mentioned too. But yeah, my friends, thank you so much for taking the time and tuning into the Arrington Gavin Show. As I mentioned, we are in for a treat. You all are in for a treat for a great conversation. Tim is he's a special individual. I would just say that, man, very passionate about community, and that's something that I would say we both have in common, because as I mentioned time and time again on the show, is that we as voters and as Americans, we have to stop just focusing on what's happening in Washington. Yes, it's a big deal, and I'm not saying don't be informed, but what happens in Washington trickles down on a state level, trickles down on a local level. Okay, so it's important to be aware of what's going on in your backyard, but it's also important just to be aware the fact that, okay, your vote is your voice. I speak with different age groups, people who are, avoid going to vote. I mean, here in Hampton Roads, in my neck of the woods, I mean, our voting turnout is extremely low. Look, the city of Chesapeake alone, voting turnout, we have over 260,000 plus people in the state, right? We're second largest population-wise city in the state of Virginia. Our average voting is like 150,000, okay? That's disgusting. And so when I hear folks saying, man, I'm so irritated with this going on, with that going on, with this going on, I'm like, well, hey, you got to cast your vote. I'm not into that. I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, can you please spare me? Can you just like, why are we even talking, dude? Why are we talking? So anyways, my friend, we got some big elections happening, big midterms happening all across the nation. Here in Virginia, we have, and we still have, I would say, a big redistricting battle happening, even though April 21st, it was voted yes in the redistricting change, the redistricting change of congressional maps. But it's still kind of a back and forth. And I'll talk a little bit of that with Tim later on. But now we see Tennessee getting involved in the redistricting. We see Florida doing it as well. And it's spreading. It's spreading again, y'all. So we will talk a little bit about that, but also with Tim on, his reasons for running. Why take that leap of faith, and what makes him a qualified candidate, right? And why should voters vote for him? So again, you're in for a treat on tonight's show, my friends. Do not go anywhere. Do not change that dial. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks. You're listening to the Arrington Gavin Show.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story, crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric. It's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs. And we're going to bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to
And we still in traffic.
Don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up.
Yeah, this that new Goat Verse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of that he said?
Introducing GoatVerse TV.
GoatVerse, that's what it's called.
The free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In GOATs, we trust.
6'10", #1 pick, 16 seasons, College Player of the Year, All-rookie standout Joe Smith built a career on grit, consistency, and showing up.
Greatness isn't just about the game. It's about how you show up every day. Rugged Evolution now offers body care products for every man, because not every man wears a beard, but every man deserves care. Greatness doesn't fade.
It evolved. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Every beard deserves to be legendary, and every man deserves care. All right, family, welcome back to the show. Thank you for staying with us. As I mentioned earlier, we have a special guest online right now, Mr. Tim Cywinski. He is a candidate running for Virginia's 1st Congressional District. He is in the Democratic primary. Currently, I believe he's the only one, if I'm not mistaken. We'll talk a little more because, again, we've had a redistricting change happening. So I'm trying to understand this, y'all. So bear with me, please. I did graduate, but barely. All right. So anyway, let me go and bring on our special guest, Mr. Tim Cywinski. Tim, what's going on with you, boss?
Hey, Arrington. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Hello, New Orleans. Hello, Atlanta. Hello, Go TV. Hello, New Las Vegas. The only place I haven't been on that list. So thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, you know what? I will say Las Vegas is I will say it's a very entertaining place. I don't even gamble, but I love cities that basically are up all night. So it's pretty dope. Just don't go in June. I did the wrong thing to go in June, and it was like 100 and I don't know, like 14, 15 degrees. And, coming from Hampton Roads, it's like, we barely have seen 102, right? Because it was so dry, but it was torture. It was torture.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be too busy in June. I'm going to be campaigning my ass off. So,
that's right. That's right. You do got that going on. You do got that.
Yeah.
But man, anyway. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Tim. You got again, extremely busy. It's midterm season, got a big election ahead. If you don't mind, for our audience who are unfamiliar with you, if you don't mind sharing just a little bit about your background and kind of what led to you pursuing this run for Congress.
I don't mind at all. People deserve to hear from candidates who want to earn it, and that includes talking about why they're qualified. And I could go through a list of my titles. I'm a community organizer right now. I was a policy advocate before, where I lobbied the state and the federal government. I was an intern for U.S. Senator Tim Kaine. I was an intern for the Obama for America campaign. These are titles. And I'm proud of the work that I did those, but that doesn't mean anything. You hear the lavish resumes all the time, but unless the candidate's willing to say what they've actually done and what they will do, that's what matters most. And so what are my claims to fame? I made sure that we bolstered education funding for non-traditional students who had to work full-time in college like I did. I actually worked 2 jobs during my college career the entire time, community college first, undergrad second. I made sure that we had more campus safety protections when around sexual assault, as well as economic opportunity for future generations and just basic economic fairness, like raising the minimum wage, making sure people got a fair shot. And then when I became a community organizer, I go to places where the communities aren't supposed to win, when they're facing billion-dollar companies or bad faith politicians, and all over Virginia. And the way I say it is Virginia's my district, America's my home. Whether it's actually in Chesapeake stopping a data center, or in Charles City County stopping a billion-dollar company from building one of those monstrosities right next to people's homes, to stopping a landfill in Russell County. These are all things where the community rose up, was pushed down to the edge, and they said, we're going to fight back anyway. And I helped them. That's my job. I try to make sure that people need to believe in themselves again. And in this moment, we're all we got. In this moment, in our political history, it's not going to be some politicians, especially from establishment backgrounds, that are going to get us out of it. It's going to be us, each other, in the trenches, realizing that so much is at stake, but we can be our own champions. That was a little longer of a rant than what you asked.
No, perfectly fine. Hey, come on, man. This is welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. That's what we do here. I want to follow up question with that. Why do you think in this current cycle, in this current climate, there is a lot of, I would say, newcomers? You're new to politics, but not quite to community, right? Because I always say community comes first when it comes to politics. It's folks will say, hey, politics is about, this and that and the other, but it happens in the community first. Why do you think in this current cycle, there is a lot of voters that are saying we need fresh new voices, we need fresh new ideas? We are exhausted of the establishment, the career politicians. I will call them out because it's I shared on the show not too long ago. I mean, the average person in Congress or in Senate is literally like, I don't know, 60s, late 60s, early 70s, even older than that. I think this past year alone, since January, Congress has lost sadly lost 5 members of Congress. And some of these folks were running for re-election. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal here, right? If you said in the past, because you know how social media is undefeated out here, and they'll find old clips. Shout out to Susan Collins out there in Maine. They found a clip 30 years ago when she was saying that, I'm definitely not going to be on long term. I'm a 2-term, at most. I'm advocate for term limits and that. And again, that was 30 years ago, and she's running for re-election for Senate. So I just use that as an example. She's not the only one. There's a ton of other names I can mention on both sides, but there is a lot of frustration. A lot of voters are tired of the same old. I'll even add on to say, folks are tired of always hearing I call it the headline, like, hey, I'm running for safety. I'm running for affordability. I'm running for I just use those 2 for example, but they're not giving they're not explaining exactly what does that mean.
Right. Vague terms, and then they don't go into any substance.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
So not to correct you too much, but I've been inside and outside politics for 17 years. So since I was 18 years old, I'm almost 36. I've been doing this. So I think I've figured out why politics is completely broken, why progress is stalled all the damn time. And because I've seen it up close. And so all those feelings that people have from like, well, they're just not going to do this because here's their insert excuse here. Because the people in power always seem to want to overpromise and underdeliver, except for I think the Republicans right now are just like, we're just not going to let go of power. But the Democrats love to beg for power, and then they refuse to wield it when they get there. And all of these issues, all of these issues that we're facing, you mentioned gas prices at the top of the show. I'm a millennial. When it's like, well, good luck affording a house. Good luck finding let's peel everything back. Yeah. We live in the most wealthy country in the world. We all have been accepting scraps, less than scraps, from the most lavish table that has ever existed, ever. And yet in this country, you can work 2 jobs and not afford to go to college without student loans like me. You can work 2 or 3 jobs and still not afford rent. Look, things have gotten so bad out there for everyday people that we've kind of given up that anything can change, that hope has become out of fashion. But the reality is, and this is why I say we got to believe in ourselves, is we got to be able to believe in bold, obnoxious, for the people agendas. And so that's what I think my creative side is. My policy platform is lived experience, being in the muck with everybody else, living amongst and working with people from all different types of backgrounds who had a lot more disadvantages of me just because of what they look like or where they were from, and still understanding that we have this shared tapestry of struggle. We all are part of the threads of something where we have been waiting for something good to happen to us. And what I'm trying to tell people right now is you have a choice to choose something different. Choose bold, choose new, choose fresh, and choose people who are willing to earn it. If people won't answer your questions without manicured talking points, then they don't know. And you shouldn't believe them if they say anything that's vague like that. I truly believe that.
Tim, I want to backtrack. Has this passion always been a part of your upbringing as a kid? Like, I mean, I'm always curious when folks get involved in politics, and as you mentioned, you had 17 years of experience in a different position, obviously running as a candidate. But was this something that you've always wanted to pursue since you were youth? I mean, you're still pretty young. I'll just say this right now. You're still a very young guy.
I get it. Yeah. Just not as young as I look. I really got to make that clear. I wanted to just do what was right for the sake of doing what's right. That's always been part of it since I was 14 years old. And I remember rebuilding houses in places of generational poverty in my own state. I didn't think that existed except in other countries. But when you go to a hauler in Southwest Virginia and you see a 7-year-old girl rifling through trash because they don't have a waste system there in order to find toys, like that was shopping for her. And it's like that because we choose to let it be like that. And, all of these communities right now, I think all feel like they keep looking up and being disappointed. They keep having to compromise on what we expect from our politicians. I want to raise the standard of what we should come to expect. I thought being on the when I interned for Senator Tim Kaine, I worked in Veterans Affairs, and we did get to do a lot of stuff for those constituents. We did. I'm not saying we didn't, but also people would call in our office and say, "Hey, I need help with Agent Orange or burn pits," just things that we know make people sick, without a doubt. But because we didn't want to set up people for disappointment, we had to have manicured talking points about what we couldn't do. And then look, and I'll be honest, and while I worked in Congress, I saw a lot of different people in different positions of power at the top, whether it's a senator or a congressman. Constituents would come in hoping to speak to them, and they'd talk to an intern like me, or they'd talk to a staff member. But a lobbyist comes in, you get to see them talk face to face with people in power for as long as they wanted to.
Wow.
That's unacceptable to me. And that's the thing is, I don't think anything I'm telling you is going to be surprising to your leaders. So I left that on purpose. I thought I wanted to be in the government, tell them, hey, you should be looking over here instead of looking over here. But it's built by like that on purpose. So I got into community organizing and nonpartisan nonprofit work to try to push people better. And at first I thought, let's put people in front of them, make them look them in the eye when they say they're not going to raise the minimum wage. Look them in the eye when they're going to take your rights away. Make them look them in the eye when they're going to have a teacher and when they're going to cut education again. And that works a little bit, but not at the drastic, change, that level of change that we need right now. And so eventually you hit a ceiling. Eventually, while I still believe people can still be powerful, and we're proving it every single day, and we prove it in community organizing, when things get really bad, though, sometimes you'll still hit a ceiling. And that's because someone in power is a jackass and just refuses to look at people in a way where we can just do good for the sake of doing good. And by the way, when we do that naturally, when things Republicans and Democrats agree with, like on our values of like opportunity and dignity, politics gets better, but also politics gets less vitriolic and polarizing like it is right now. And so, we were talking a little bit before the show about how, like, you have backgrounds with friends and family and stuff that it is more conservative. So do I. I was like one of the only Democratic households where I grew up, but I could still get along with people 20 years ago with disagreements. Now people are more interested in drawing a line than they are having a dialogue. And that's because of how epically disappointing our politics has become, and both sides are to blame. I do believe the right is more to blame right now, but until we're willing to go to talk with people we might disagree with and give them more than just talking points and prove that we have solutions that are deeper than talking points, things are just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more on that one, because I mean, we're living in a world now where politics is so it's starting to be like, the next wrestling promotion outside of WWE and AEW.
That's perfect.
Then you have
perfect
politics.
Metaphor.
It really is, because I mean, I'm watching, I'm seeing a clip on social media, which actually I reposted and made a clip on our social media. You got a conservative pundit from CNN cussing out a young Adam Mockler, Scott Jennings.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, Scott Jennings. Because again, folks couldn't get along and talk with each other, right? Like, it was a perfect debate, but hey, get your hand on my, it's
a grift, though. It's a grift. Let's just call it out like for what it is. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're just the ESPN of politics.
Yes,
they know that people will stay glued to that TV if they don't give them what they need to hear, but give them what they want to see. That's it. I'm so tired of acting like these news organizations aren't built on an entire house of cards. And by the way, anyone from those stations, please have me on and I will tell you exactly what I'm talking about right now to your faces, because that's what we need. We got to stop pretending like these are legitimate sources when they are all owned by a very few people who have a vested interest in making sure that we are continuing to look horizontally instead of looking up. That's the whole ball game for a lot of our problems. It's that they don't want us to look up and realize that they aren't doing their job, or that certain people are putting so much money into it that they can pull on the strings. That's it.
I didn't even cut you off, Tim. Another thing I wanted to add on. And,
I rant, man. I rant. Cut me off.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Another thing I wanted to quickly add on to that point that you just mentioned. When I had my friend Amanda Nelson on, a shout out to Amanda.
Yeah, she's great.
Platform Amanda's Mile Takes. Amanda, when I had her on, she had talked about how she can't stand C-SPAN. I'm like, say why? Explain. So her reason, no perfect reason, right? She had said, you get a different side from politicians, because they see when the cameras are turned on, boom, put on this character, but then outside there I say, well, we hang out, we vacation, we this and that, like I think his Tennessee rep Burton, last name Burton, I think Tim Burton or something like that, he had said, hey, look, me and AOC are we're good friends, this and that and the other, and so
she's my buddy. I remember seeing that.
She's my buddy, all this stuff. So it's interesting, and it was just I thought it was a funny statement that she made, because another dear friend of mine who's a political and legal analyst, shout out to Dr. Eric Lavelle, he loves C-SPAN. That dude will binge watch C-SPAN. I'm like, oh my, he's one of my mentors, in the world of media, and I'm just like, now you got me watching C-SPAN, man. I used to think that was the most boring channel ever, and this and any other. So, but going back to you, man. So you said the system is rigged for the powerful. That's something voters across both parties do agree with, right?
Yes.
Now, so what makes your plan to fix it realistic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to set people up for disappointment. I want to set them up for a fair fight. And I think that most people in this country, Republican, Democrat, outside, inside politics, they feel like unless you have a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, no one's getting a fair shot. So our politics cannot be disconnected from that. And what I have is a platform called the Fair Shot Agenda. It's about answering why we can't do anything on healthcare, why we can't do anything on economics, why we can't do anything on bolstering education. It's these underlying issues that we must address in order to get that change unstuck. So to quickly run through it, the number one thing, and it's always going to be my number one thing, is if you are not willing to fight big money in politics, you are not willing to fight for everyday people. I cannot be convinced otherwise. And I know there's some politicians out there who say, well, I take corporate money, but I use it for good. Whether or not that's true, it's not them I'm worried about. It's their colleagues that I'm worried about. And to promise to fight the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, which led to this proliferation of just money being so polluting on our system, I actually want to create a counterbalances that, again, just like community organizing, empowers people. So I want to get rid of that stuff, but that's going to be a long-term fight, and we need to start having more long-term fights as a Democratic Party. I think we're wishy-washy on what we continue to have, what our focus is. But my plan around that is something I call democracy dollars. It's the idea of public financing campaigns where each person is dedicated $500 voucher from the government, where they can donate any of that money to any federal candidate of their choice. So people listening to this will be like, I like this guy. You have $500 that costs you nothing because it's part of the tax system, right? And you go on the FEC website and be like, Tim Cywinski gets $25 of my democracy dollars. You have another person on the show. Well, I really like this guy. They're this person, this lady, this person. I'm going to give them $100, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't get rid of the big money in politics problem, but it does allow everyday people to compete. And when the fight is fair, we win. We win 10 out of 10 times because we know what's at stake. We can recognize BS when we see it. So let's empower them, because politicians now have an incentive to talk to everybody instead of just talking to the people who can write the biggest check. Let's do this, because now we can have people who have otherwise wouldn't be able to run for office because so many of us, including almost myself, are priced out of it. Just to get on the ballot and just to get a voter file is $10,000, man. That's the reality, right? So the nurse, the school teacher, all the people who I think would have the best ideas and the best experience, how are they supposed to find that money if they're not wealthy and well-connected already?
The money thing, man, really it trips me up because recently I had on Jen Johansson on. Awesome conversation we had. And, her with her expertise, brought up, yes, money does have an influence when it comes to running campaigns and elections and things of that nature. And for me, I get so frustrated because a recent story broke where the governor of Maine, Janet Mills, dropped out of the Senate race. And she primarily blamed it. The reason was because she did not have the finance. Exactly. And I'm like, well, I can think of another thing. Again, I'm not being ageist, but she has been in office with another, she pushing up. She knocking on that door. No, but she had said finances. But to me, I'm like, okay, is it money and money only? I thought you win elections off of votes. I thought
you were correct. You were correct, but you're absolutely correct. But who doesn't think that? The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the establishment Democratic Party. And by the way, also people who send out endorsements, because, we try to do that. I don't take corporate money. I don't take special interest money. I'm not wealthy and well-connected. I'm very proud that 97% of my donations are less than $50. And by the way, I call everybody who gives me money, even if they only give me $5 or less. I don't care, because I think it makes me a better candidate to learn from those people. But unless you hit $50,000 a quarter, the party doesn't pay you any attention. And the endorsements will be like, well, we're not going to put our money where you can't win. So without even realizing it, I think they're actually incentivizing the big money in politics problem, because they've set standards where anyone who might have the best ideas and the best experience and the best background, and not to mention the best communication skills, then it doesn't matter, because all it comes down to is how much money can you raise. Let's boil people down to dollar symbols instead of their ideas, instead of their humanity.
Yeah,
that's outrageous.
That's what really, again, it irritates me, because this is a two-part. I mean, this happens in both sides, and it's you can't be hypocrites saying, oh my gosh, they're bought and paid for. And then again, it's happening in politics. And it's unfortunate because who suffers the most is, everyday people, as you mentioned, everyday Americans, voters. And it's hurtful. It's a shame.
Do you know how much of Congress has a background of working class by chance?
How much?
The fact that you laugh actually speaks volumes.
Yeah, so, I can only think of a few. I mean, are we talking just both parties in general?
Percentage wise, all Congress, all 535.
I'm gonna say, well, you give it to me. I don't want to.
It's less than 2%.
Wow, I was actually gonna say 10%, but that.
It's way worse than that. Yeah. So, like I said,
wow.
I had to work 2 jobs throughout college because I had to. And when I was in community college, I worked 7 days a week, full time, in order to pay for books and tuition, because I had to. It wasn't a choice for me. This wasn't like a luxury that I was just guaranteed. And I would have to take 6 classes in the morning, then I'd go to work, and then I'd go to work in the morning, then I'd go to a night class, sleep in my car, and then go back into classes the next day, and then drive to work, which was an hour away, by the way.
Wow.
Look, but like, I'm proud of that. I have a lot of dignity in the fact that I was able to do it. I was also 19. I don't think I could do that right now at 35 years old. But that's the thing. I'm proud of that. But I also think no one should ever have to be in that position, not in the richest country on earth. And that's going to influence how I think about policy. And that's also going to influence who I'm going to represent and fight for. Like, that should mean something. But that also means people like me do not have access to people who can write $5,700 for a campaign contribution, which is our max donation, by the way. Like, we're just not. And that's okay too, except for the fact that when you have places and a party that's like, we're looking for the best people. No, you're not. You're looking for the people who can access the most money. And I don't know if you're on the email chain of anyone who's part of who's ever voted Democrat before, but their solution to everything is fundraising. No wonder we can't stop Trump. No wonder we can't stop the backsliding of our democracy, because every time there's something that happens, it's here's the link to donate to stop it. Except then why didn't you stop it already?
Again, you already had. I can name 1 billion reasons, and you still didn't stop it. Right. So it's like, right. Man, I want to ask you this because I've mentioned before the show, and my listeners know I'm very transparent with them. I'm an independent. I've always been like that throughout my whole life, and that's just how I roll. I think hearing your passion, hearing everything you're talking with us. You kind of answered my question, but I'll still ask it. Why should independent voters trust that you won't fall in line with the party leadership once you get to Washington? And I ask that because we see a large voting turn, or we see a large number of independent voters. Or if you ask a lot of people, they're like, we're tired of both. So it's like, what, 60% or 64% considers themselves independents. But at the end of the day, okay, come election day, most likely they're going to lean to either the right or to the left. So if you don't mind answering that question, I know it's an easy question for you.
It is. Well, it's an easy question, but it's worth expanding on. Look, my whole career has been on making sure that the underdog has a shot, has a chance. That's it. And I don't ask people when I go to communities to help them stop a polluting project or try to promote a good policy for teachers or nurses or just people that DC has forgot about. I don't ask them who they voted for before I went there. In fact, my biggest accomplishment is working with a community in Russell County, Virginia, the southest, westest corner of Virginia as you can get. And you better believe that even though I have voted Democrat my entire life, that I'm in a sea of MAGA people. And let me show you how deep. So what was going on was it was a landfill that was the largest proposed project of that size anywhere in the history in the United States, but it's in a place nobody cares about because no one there is rich. That's essentially why they picked that location. How deep the villainy goes? The former director of the environmental quality of Virginia, he was the lead consultant on that project. So the fix is in, right? Wow. Well, the community stopped him. The community still stopped them. They ended up getting a unanimous rejection from the board of supervisors down there because they demanded more. They rose their voices, and I gave them some good strategic advice. I made some compelling speeches. You see this passion here. You best believe I'm going to do it, especially when I'm in front of people in power. And I go back to that idea of like this tapestry of shared struggle that I think we need to be tapping into so that we can lock arms and look up and say, we deserve better. That's who I'm going to fight for. The underdogs. I am an underdog. I don't forget where I came from. I refuse to. So I might as well try. So but if they don't trust me, I get it. I got to earn that. I just want the opportunity to earn it. That's it.
transparency is like my word of the year. Accountability, transparency, you name it, from all levels, local, state, federal. You talk about rewriting the rules. Now, what's one current law or policy you believe is outright corrupt or broken?
Insider trading by congressional members. I mean, that's but let me go a step further, because look, the guy I was originally running against and still am running against is named Rob Whitman. All he's done is represent the worst version of our politics. He's enriched himself. He's ignored his from insider trading. He's ignored his constituents. He kisses up to his donors and his political party, even when the party screws over the people he's supposed to represent. Right. Even the conflict of Iran, he benefited from it because he serves on the Armed Services Committee. Like, you don't get to day trade. None of your family gets to day trade. This is supposed to be public service. This is supposed to be public representation. And not for nothing, the House of Representatives was designed to be the most accessible part of the federal government. That sounds like a joke now. And it is. And it is. Like I said, we used to be able to just go in there and be like, where's my guy? And then they wouldn't, and you could just walk in and talk to them. You can't do that now unless you're somebody who was a big donor or you represent a big lobbying firm. Like that's it. I would go a step further than that, because this is the second part of my fair shot agenda, because it's mandatory ethics, where you lose your job unless you satisfy these things. No insider trading. You have to do mandatory town halls, because I want people to have to look into the eyes of their constituents when they say something controversial. And I also want public transcripts of any corporate lobbying meeting that went down. And at the bottom of that transcript, I want to see how much money they did or did not give to their campaign in the last election. That's what I want to see. And by the way, I don't think any of that's unreasonable, because we should be empowering people. You mentioned like people aren't voting in higher numbers, and why? Well, what are we giving them to vote for?
Exactly.
Democrats,
what have they been getting in return the past years? And I always, and I ain't even to cut you off, but I always throw in the point where voters forget that we are the bosses here. Our elected officials work for us. We pay their salaries. So it's like, don't think that, you're not powerful, but that's the unfortunate part. We have a system now where you do have elected officials that think they're way above their constituents and ignore. And I'm glad you mentioned about the town halls, because I mean, come on, we saw clips of last year of how many town halls people were just getting booed out. Their elected officials were getting booed because they're like, don't give us that BS. So I ain't even cut you off, but please continue what you were saying.
You're right. And by the way, then our elected officials have the gall, the audacity to complain about that. Dude, this is what you signed up for. This is supposed to be hard. This is the most controversial thing you can do. And it's designed so that you represent those same people. If anyone wants to yell at me while I'm in Congress, I will answer the phone and I'll let them do it. I will, as long as I won't let them be rude to my staff. That's where I draw the line. But that's what I signed up for. Just the same thing with I'm getting ignored by the powers that be. I knew that was going to happen. It's supposed to be hard. If I earn this, that means I'm really going to be able to be effective, because I'm not going to let any adversity along the way stop me from doing and fighting for what I believe in. And I can't promise I'm going to accomplish all these things that I talk about, but I can promise I'm going to fight like hell for it. And I can promise that I'm going to find clever, different ways to reach the finish line, because we, like you mentioned, we've been gaslit into expecting such a low standard of politician. I'm running so that we can raise them. And if that means that I'm the least well fundraised candidate, so be it, because that means that I got to earn it even more. And that's what I'm down for. I'm down to do that.
Tim, if you don't mind explaining, because I'm, and this was not a question that I guess it was a question.
No, we're vibing.
I really are. That's the thing. It's all about good vibes on this show. Exactly. It's all about good vibes on this show. Explain. Okay, the redistricting. So Virginia had a big battle recently about, and I think the battle is still continuing. Personally, the way it's looking, but we had this redistricting where we originally had a 6-5 congressional map, which I believe we kind of currently still have, but the fight was to change it to a 10-1. Now, April 21st, Virginians voted in favor of voting yes for a redistricting change, and it was very, very close. I think it was like 51%. I think voted in favor, 50% to like 49. It was very, very close.
It was close one, 52, close to 53. But that's
it was extremely close. Now, we mentioned, okay, you are running to unseat Rob Whitman, who currently serves representing the Congressional District 1. Now, if you don't mind explaining explain very quickly, because originally your primary was stacked. I mean, it was like it was a lot. Now, honestly, I know it has changed, which is better for you as as a primary candidate, because like, hey, look, they give you a better chance. But if you don't mind explaining to us, like, okay, how does this change go for voters, like saying, what the hell is going on? I thought I was voting for this person, that person, because again, I'm all about informing our audience. Knowledge is power. It's good to know and keep them informed. Explain this redistricting change.
Yeah, and I'm going to preface it by saying, of course, when you see a army of insurgent candidates who are talking about how the party needs to fight harder, that's has to be the same year that we're going through all of this like changes that make running an election super hard. Essentially, I'm in the first district no matter what, and this is still kind of up in the air because it's down to the Supreme Court to make the final decision. But what happened was Virginia had completely different maps that were made in a way that in 2024, 5 Republicans won and 6 Democrats won. But then Trump started a redistricting war in Texas and in Florida and in North Carolina and a couple other states to essentially say, find me some seats. That's literally the order that he gave. So when Texas did that, California responded by doing exactly what we did. And then North Carolina responded to them to do this. So now Virginia's turn to be part of this arms race of finding seats, which again, it bothers me on a few levels, but do I think it was necessary? Yeah, because when you mess with something as sacred as our democracy, there has to be a response. And Donald Trump and his administration drew first blood. Like, sometimes we got to fight fire with fire, even if we don't like the overarching way we do it. But we're not going to sit back and take this, because especially with what this administration has done, like, Republicans keep the majority. They don't seem interested in holding Donald Trump accountable, with all the things that he's done, whether it's the tariffs, invading, the calls to invade Greenland, the illegally stealing the Venezuelan president for some reason. And also, but now,
by the way, the president looked like he was chilling, by the way. Every time a camera was on, he's like,
yeah, I know. That's right. Just like, yeah, this is my life now.
Nike jogging suits went up like sky high, but okay.
He was Jim from The Office in that moment, just like looking at the camera, like, what's going on? But especially now with what the conflict in Iran was completely arbitrary. It was told to us by Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. And for the first time, America was like, that sounds crazy. Let's do it. And the gas prices that are going up, that's because of that. That is because of unfettered power in this administration that is not being held accountable by his own party. That's it. All of these bad things economically that have been happening, they weren't going to naturally happen. They were disrupted by what the Trump administration is doing it. And that is objective. I'm happy to talk to people about who want to disagree with me about my values, my policies, etc. Had we not done the war in Iran, we would not have higher gas prices like they are right now. So, this is not supposed to be a slam dunk. I am trying to say we have to mutually understand this. And his party said nothing. They didn't hold him as accountable because they have the majority. So when we see them to make that even worse, we have to respond. So to answer your question, as you said shortly, and I failed to do that. Sorry. So my district was and is maybe District 1, where Rob Whitman represented, which was like the outskirts of Richmond, of Chesterfield, Henrico, and then parts of those through Williamsburg, all the way through the Northern Neck in Virginia, all the way to the tip of Poquoson. So it was a suburban rural district. Now, the way that Democrats got to 10-1 was they kind of sliced up a lot of really populated areas. So now District 1 includes 2 of the original counties it had, which are Hanover and King William. And then it goes all the way up through the 95 corridor. So like any place that 95 goes through, it goes through those counties and then stops at parts of Fairfax, which has been split up into 5 different districts, and Prince William, which has been up into 3 different districts.
Tim, were you, if it's okay, if I can ask,
please.
Were you in favor of this redistricting?
I voted yes. I voted yes. I didn't just vote yes. I campaigned for it, fully knowing that it would make my job harder as a grassroots candidate who doesn't have I don't have millions of dollars, which again, you don't earn it when you raise $1 million, because the cheat code is you just send out a bunch of texts, a bunch of mailers, and a bunch of TV ads that annoy the hell out of everybody. But
I posted a while back. I had about 8 or 9 different forms of mail, and I'm like, look, I'm gonna start collecting these like Pokemon cards. So whoever got this, let me know. I want to cop it out. So
for me, it's when I'm watching sports and I see a political commercial, and I'm like, this is my escape. I'm just trying to watch my football team, succeed.
Hey, I saw Adam Kinzinger almost like 8 times in one game, and I'm like, okay, Adam, I'm
right.
But you know what though, and I was sharing with this on our with our listeners, and I won't spend too much time with it, but
sure,
I understood the cause. I will say this: I'm not a fan of gerrymandering. I absolutely hate it. I wish it was never in existence. But
same.
I understood the reason, and you can't be for those, especially those Democratic voters or those that were, that are not a fan of gerrymandering, just like myself. But also is very, very critical of like the left not having a backbone. Okay, if you say that they don't have a backbone, this is literally a perfect example of them fighting fire with fire. I mean, it's just it's what it is. And so we're seeing it now in Tennessee. We're seeing it now possibly being brought up in Florida. Louisiana is insane right now. I mean,
it's canceled the primary.
It's spreading everywhere, and it's because folks in power want to get some seats. They want to they want to win the midterms because it's looking really against the Republican Party because they've been losing a lot of special elections. What's your take on term limits?
I'm in favor of them, but let's just cards at the table. Anyone who says that before they have power, you can't trust them. I get that. I think honestly, if you solve the big money problem and you get my democracy dollars plan in there, where we are empowering like real people, and because I think people want term limits is because once you're in politics for so long, you aren't a real person anymore. You become out of touch. And as long as you can have an outsider candidate actually run and win in a fair competition, it would just take care of the term limit problem. It's like, I want to say, I'll term limit myself to three terms. I believe that right now, but what am I supposed to tell people that like, I'm just going to set you up for like, but what if I really believe I should have an 8th term? Like I appreciate the question, but I say also, I think we have more examples of people saying that when to get to power, and then keep the power when they got there when they were supposed to. So I'm which I'm going to say right now, but I'm also saying clip that. So when I become a congressman, it's after my 3rd term, hit me with it. Hold me accountable. And if I'm going to find you, Tim. I'm going to find you, Tim. That's what I'm saying. Track me down. I'm going to knock on the door. And I'm going to say, hey, is Tim in? Okay. Yeah. And I'll open it up because that's the kind of congressman that I want to be. And if I do change my mind, I owe it to you. I owe it to every single person that I ever heard me say this out loud to tell them why. That's the difference. That's the difference between me and another ones where we say, oh, don't you know how hard my job is? Don't bother me with these things. No, part of earning it is being willing to respond when people try to hold you accountable. So
Tim, you've emphasized in expanding voting access, which I think is very important. What specific changes would you push at the federal level?
Well, I'll tell you what we got to do. We got to do something about the Supreme Court because of what they did for the Voting Rights Act last week, right? So the Voting Rights Act, what they changed for that was, long story short, they essentially took away safeguards for Black and brown people in America, to make sure that they had fair, accurate representation. Cards on the table. Let's not the no BS about this. It's just a racist decision. It's a racist decision because people who have darker skin than me have less rights will have less rights than me unless those things are in place. And we know that this was part of a grand strategy because before the ink was dry on that decision, Florida went and changed their maps in a way that that decision allowed them to do. And I know what I look like. That's why I think it's even more important that I talk about social justice and dignity and rights and racial justice, because I want people who look like me to see me obnoxiously talking about it and saying that this decision was awful. So we got to pass a whole bunch, essentially legislate that decision back in, but I worry about the Supreme Court taking it back out. Let's just impeach 2 of the Supreme Court justices who took bribes. Alito and Clarence Thomas took bribes from billionaires and $1 million CEOs. And then they made decisions that helped those same companies thrive and get around the rules. We have the evidence. That's like the receipts are all over the place. This is what I'm talking about when I say we begged for power but refused to wield it when we get there. Can we actually get an impeachment through the Senate? I don't know. But at least if we lose, we go down swinging. That's what I think the spirit of that fight, that people who have to live with the consequences of the people in power's decision, they want to see that, and we owe that to them. There is the thing about voting rights in particular is it's the great equalizer. At least it should be. And I'm not talking about the law. I'm talking about the act. Because for once, in one moment, because of one piece of paper, doesn't matter how much money I make. My choice matters just as much as anybody else. Like there's something powerful and profound and beautiful about that. And I think if everyone gets to do that, that's at least some foundation of dignity in this country. And I want to bring dignity back.
Amen to that. We need dignity, man. On your platform, you've mentioned, tax tax hard work less and corporate greed more.
Yeah.
If you don't mind explaining that, how does that look like, like policy? What actual policy would that look like for you?
Great. So this is where I'm going to get nerdy and wonky. So I hope your listeners will forgive me. Let's just talk about our tax code, right? So it's about 7,000 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work for a living and you just have income, it's only 182 pages relate to you. That's it. So the vast majority of it, some of it is a little bit of childcare tax incentives, but for the most part, it's corporate loopholes. It allows billionaires who hide their money in like lavish investments. I'm talking about yachts. I'm talking about artwork. And I'm talking about stocks. They don't have to pay taxes on those things at all in a lot of cases. And what they do, when they turn around and do is they say, look at all this wealth I have. I will put it up as collateral to a bank, and the bank will just give them loans for walking around cash. Right. And the loans come with like 0.1% interest. They're lucky if it's 1% interest. Like that's what happens in the system. Imagine somebody who's a single parent working 2 jobs had access to that, like just got that much of a break. When conservatives talk about how they don't like being taxed into oblivion, I actually agree with them, especially right now when 51% of Virginians are going into debt just to afford groceries. 51%, more than half of us. So I want to give those people immediate relief. And I think we can do that by lowering income tax, lowering payroll tax, so that when we're actually talking about affordability, 2 things need to happen. It's either or both. You need to increase people's pay because the price of everything's going up, or you make prices go down. At least mine satisfies the first one of those. And I know that the right, who is just even more bought by, literally run by a billionaire right now, they're going to freak out by this. And look, and I think this comes down to, just to put a finer point on it, about how this system is upside down, how our tax code is upside down. Jeff Bezos is the 4th richest man in the world. Amazon paid no taxes in 2025. He himself has given himself a salary, because most of his wealth comes from the stocks I was just talking about, of $80,000, which means he qualified for the child tax credit and he took it. Meanwhile, yeah, he did. Meanwhile, 25% of his warehouse workers, people who actually know what hard work looks like, 25% of them are on food stamps. 25%. Jeff Bezos doesn't get to be the 4th richest man in the world, and 25% of his warehouse workers are on a food assistance. Those 2 things should not be the same. And because that's allowed, that's truly why we have an affordability problem. It's because we incentivize bad behavior. I want to flip the script. Let's incentivize good behavior. Let's disincentivize bad behavior. So I'm coming for you, Jeff Bezos, if I get there. And
I just want people to let that sink in, because Bezos, by the way, y'all, and I forget where I read this from, but he could literally give, I'm just going to say $250,000 to, or excuse me, $1 million, I think it was, to every single one of his employees and still be one of the richest people. Like literally this money is like crazy. And I reposted a video that was shared on social media of they had recently had the Met Gala, and so there
$10 million he gave to that.
$10 million. You're absolutely right. And there was they had projected on a building those that were against it. It was an employee at Amazon who was like, I think, a 72-year-old woman who just said, basically, Shane, like, I am struggling to try and make it out here when you are in this Met Gala. You should be talking about it. And it was sad. It was very unfortunate, because, again, going back to what you said, Tim, in the beginning, we live in the wealthiest country in the world.
Yes.
The richest, the absolute richest, yet we have so much homeless.
Yep.
We have homeless that involves a lot of veterans. Okay. I mean, it's just, the math ain't mathing. I know that comes up a lot. The math ain't mathing.
It's just, and I want to put just one final point, point on this. If you're worried about Social Security, you got to be worried about this kind of stuff. If you're worried about staying in or getting into the middle class, you have to be worried about this kind of stuff. And if you're worried about hatred and division in our country, you have to be worried about this kind of stuff, because when you have an economy that is this so far upside down and a middle class that is shrinking at this close rate, you create the perfect ecosystem for hatred to thrive, for people to come in who are bad faith politicians and rise to power, and for division to breed. You just are, because it's easier to blame. It's easier for our leaders to say, blame someone else for your problems. Look over there. Don't look over here, because it's just the evidence of how much lavish wealth someone can have while someone else is busting their ass day in and day out, which I know how to do, and see that and exist at the same time. It gaslights us into feeling it's our fault. And then that's only one step away from saying, no, it's not my fault. It's actually my neighbor's fault. So
Tim, we have about 2 minutes left into this. My final two questions I want to ask. First question: what's your plan to make college more affordable? Because college is something that a lot of folks are really looking at, like, not even pursuing because it's so expensive. Even if they live in-state tuition, it's still just as expensive. So what's your
outrageous
plan on to make it affordable?
You got it. So one of the things is my tax plan of taxing greedy billionaires and corporations more will actually be able to bolster public benefits. And one of those things is education. We cannot expect to compete with China and India and all the economic powerhouses unless we have a strong education system, not just in college, but K through 12 and universal childcare. It's if we have to think about this more like inwardly, that's the whole thing. Our country will not be able to compete, especially with the rise of AI and all this other stuff that's coming through the pike. But for me, student loan forgiveness and really eliminating interest on that is also very important. I came out of undergrad with $65,000 worth of debt. Remember, worked 2 jobs. I've paid like almost $35,000 towards them, and I still have $50,000 worth of debt. I don't know if student loans are a scam. I certainly know the interest is. We need to make sure that we are punishing and making sure that there's pathways to the non-traditional students. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a 4-year school. We got to make sure we're diversifying our portfolio of what education can look like. So it's a reflection of people's humanity and circumstance. And right now we are not interested in doing that. We're so far behind on what education should look like. And I think we need to ask the communities themselves.
Tim, final question. Why should voters consider you coming this upcoming election, man?
I'm just a normal guy who's running for office, and I think I'm willing to give a kick in the nuts to anyone who's overlooked you, and I'm never going to answer that question with like, here's my manicure talking point. I'm going to say, just stick around, pay attention. I promise you I'll earn it. And if you want to, go ahead. I was just going to say, if you want to question me on that, contact at Vote Tim VA. That goes to me. Doesn't go to a staffer. That's how serious I'm about this.
You heard it right there. For those who are watching, I've put up the site right here and the website again, votetimva.com, y'all. Again, look, I told y'all going to be in for a treat for a great conversation here on the Arrington Gavin Show, as we always are. Tim, I will say this, my friend, best of luck to you on your campaign.
Thank you.
I truly enjoyed this conversation. Don't go anywhere. I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes after the show.
Yeah,
so just stand by. But again, we thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. And look, you have about, I know you don't want to give a talking point, but we have about like maybe less than 60 seconds left. If you want to, use some of that time to, again, share with the folks, again, why they should vote for you.
Let me go for disenfranchised Democrats really quickly. Like I said before, beg for power, refuse to wield to get there. That's because they don't have a vision. No one knows what the vision of the Democratic Party is. Here's my vision. We fight for everyone, everywhere, no matter what, and no exceptions.
I mean, this man is right on the money, man. Right on the money. Again, Tim Cywinski, Democratic candidate running for Virginia's Congressional District, District 1, representing District 1. Again, votetimva.com is his site. So if you want to tune into more or follow up more with his campaign, if you happen to be in District 1, look, be sure to, check out his platform. I truly appreciate it, Tim. Again, don't go anywhere. I want to chop it up with you just for a couple seconds, but we really thank you for coming on the show, taking the time out your busy schedule, and also, look, don't be a stranger.
This was a pleasure. Anytime you need me, you just let me know.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Again, I don't know about y'all, but I felt the passion out of Tim, and that's something I haven't seen in a while from candidates. I will say that in a while, I do not see the passion. But I think now in our current climate, that's what we need. That's what majority of America right now we need to see is passion and not talking points. I'm sorry, talking points it's getting kind of old. It's getting a little outdated. All right, it's even older than some of the elected officials in office. Yep, I said it right there. I just said that. But anyway, my friends, I hope y'all enjoyed. Be sure to continue to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look, stay safe, stay informed, and I will talk to y'all soon on another great convo here on the Arrington Gavin Show. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.